Hello, everybody. Come one, come all to another live stream. Dare I say, the first Raider live stream in a long time that feels a little positive. Too much to ask, Raider Nation? I don't know. What say you? We'll talk about the vibes that are pretty immaculate right now, thanks to Pete Carroll. I just want to say something up top. I was about to hit the go live button and I sneezed like 100,000 times. So if I'm a little nasally, I apologize. I might have to blow my nose at some point. I even feel a sneeze coming on right now. I apologize for all that. But if you're watching this live on Bleacher Report, my name is Rodney. Thank you so much for coming back. Let's make sure we're getting this chat rocking and rolling because I know people are excited, or maybe not, for the Pete Carroll of it all. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away. We're going to be reading all of those. Where do I get that floating Raider helmet? It was a gift from my father. I think he just got it at NFL.com. If you type in like floating anti-gravity NFL helmet, you could probably find it. It's like $70 or something like that. That's pretty sweet. Thank you, Daddy. So Pete Carroll, not officially, but pretty officially, is the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I did a video a month ago, maybe not a month ago, but it was when AP was rumored to get fired. And Pete Carroll was somebody that I said, look out for Pete Carroll if they're going to go the experience route. I said him and Bruce Arians. And people immediately want to talk about the age, right? And I totally understand. 73 is old for coaching in the National Football League. It's actually the oldest a coach has ever been. And I get it. This is a cliche to say age is but a number. It doesn't matter. However, I think sometimes cliches are cliches because they make a lot of sense. And in this instance, and I know everybody said this, you've never seen a younger 73-year-old. I would argue that Pete Carroll at 73 is in better shape than Andy Reid at 66. There's no shot to Andy Reid. I think that's just the facts. So as I get into my vibe check with everybody watching, you beautiful people watching on Bleacher Report Live, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on this hire instantaneously. I'm not going to shy away from the fact, and let's make sure we're voting in that poll. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that Ben Johnson was my number one option. I'm not now going to say, actually, Pete Carroll's better, in my opinion. I'm not doing that. I could tell how nasally I am. It's ridiculous. However, my second option, and I was in lockstep with the Raiders, I guess, was Pete Carroll. Because if you're not going to get the wonderkind, 38-year-old hotshot play caller, let's go get a national champion. Let's go get a Super Bowl champion, one of the most decorated coaches of the last decade, to get this train back on the tracks. Is this the flashiest hire of all time? No. I would argue it's still pretty flashy. But this is literally, I'm going to be saying this a lot, get the train on the freaking tracks. Get somebody in here. As good as I think Ben Johnson's going to be, we don't know if he knows what he's doing. We have no idea. We know exactly what we're getting with Pete Carroll. You're going to play your tail off on defense. You're going to run the football and pound the rock with a couple solid running backs. And you're going to make life extremely easy for the quarterback. Now, what's very important is getting the right offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in place. And there has been some reports already about maybe a potential OC, a potential DC, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to read that to you as of right now, okay? But I just want to put this whole kibosh on the age thing. Because number one, at 73, he'll be 74. He signed a 3-year deal. 3 years to get this train on the tracks with a 4th-year option. If he decides to take that option, or if we decide to take that option, that's 4 years to right this ship. And people go, Well, they don't have a quarterback. We'll get to the quarterback in a second, but anyone that's saying they don't have a quarterback, look me in the eyes. Please stop saying that. We're not playing games tomorrow. If I told you this time last year Kirk Cousins wouldn't be on the Vikings, you would say, got a lot of weapons, and Kevin O'Connell can call a heck of an offense, but who's their quarterback? Smash cut to 14 wins and 1 game away from the 1 seed in the NFC East, or the NFC. Here we are. I promise you, Spytek and Brady and Geno Smith, Spytek was officially announced to be the GM, have a plan in place to be competitive right away. They're not going to bottom out for Arch Manning, or that they don't want to. Maybe they will. Maybe it'll go completely off the rails, but they don't want to bottom out. Spytek has said, I don't want to bottom out. And they did that with Baker Mayfield. They flipped the script on the rebuild. Pete Carroll, I think in Seattle, his lowest win total was 7. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. Tashawn Reed tweeted a couple hours ago. Okay. Raiders head coach Pete Carroll, insane to say out loud. His top priority is hiring and coaching staff. And then he breaks down potential offensive defensive candidates. Now, I've seen some people saying they don't really know who they're going to get. Offense, they don't want it to be Shane Waldron because we don't want to do another OC from the Bears that got fired to bring in like Luke Getsy. No, thank you, Shane Waldron. And I've seen some people say, oh, they don't want to do Ken Dorsey or Gus Bradley, cover 3, bend, don't break defense again. And I don't want to do that either. He follows up this tweet, Deshaun, with Dolphins quarterback coach and pass game coordinator Darrell Bevell has a strong chance to land the Raiders offensive coordinator job per sources, but they'll interview others and that could change. The DC coordinator position is wide open. Vegas must interview 2 diverse candidates for both roles, plus 1 diverse QB coach to satisfy the Rooney Rule. So let's talk about that real fast, the DC options, right? He said it's wide open. I think that does not bode well for guys like Ken Norton or Gus Bradley. I think he's going to look for a younger, more aggressive defensive coordinator. I don't have any names in mind at this current juncture. Dennis Allen would have been nice. I don't know if he's officially part of the Ben Johnson regime. Be nice to steal someone on our side for once. But if you have any defensive coordinator options out there, put them in the comments below. But Darrell Bevell, for the ones who don't know, he's the quarterback coach for the Dolphins and the pass game coordinator, and they have a great pass game. He was the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks from 2011 to 2017. He was the orchestrator of the offense opposite the Legion of Boom that got to Super Bowl after playoff appearance, after division win. 55 years old. Not a bad option. Not a bad option to come in here and, again, make the life extremely easy of whoever is going to be the quarterback. So as I hop into the chat here and as I end this poll, the vibe check is great hire or solid plan B. Nobody's skeptical. Nobody's not happy. And, of course, yes, this can go completely wrong. And Pete Carroll could come out one day and be like, look like Joe Biden, right? Just very old out of nowhere. I do think he's in pretty good shape, and he's addicted to the game. And I do think he can get this train on the tracks, be competitive day one. I don't think we're going to win 12 games with him. I don't think we're going to have a Commanders-type flip, right? But if we can get 7, 8, 9 wins, build this thing, keep a consistent quarterback there, or draft someone to learn under a blank, blank, blank. I'm not going to get into that right now because I will talk about that in a second. But another thing to keep in mind about Pete Carroll, because of his age, he's been able, to garner relationships with a bunch of players that might want to come from where he was before to play for him now. So as I close this poll, I want you to start thinking about potential former Seattle Seahawks or Seahawks currently on the roster who you'd like Pete to poach. I'm going to blow my nose away from the microphone and then put this poll out here. Give me 2 seconds. Wow. That felt amazing. Here we go. Okay, let me read this. Okay, let's read this. Let's read this here, this chat. Raiders for Life says, Raiders, let's get this. Let's absolutely get it. Are you done shaking out of the Spy Tech is ours? Yes, I'm okay now. They've announced Spy Tech. Ooh, Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner's sneaky, not a bad idea. Build a team for 3 years, compete, and we can win 6 to 7 games. Yes, we just got to compete and get this train on the tracks, right? Guy from Texans, Slowick. Yeah, Slowick just got fired. That could maybe be someone. And stoked for this move. Caleb is a bust, so that's going to hurt Ben. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to put this poll out here. Obviously, a couple of these would have to be trades. One of these would have to be free agents. So don't just vote for your player of your choosing. You have to understand what we'd have to give up to get these guys, right? If they are free agents or if they are trade assets. Now, these are 3 guys, obviously not all of them at once, that I could see becoming a Raider next year. Now, if we go top to bottom, let's talk about it, guys. Let's talk about the Russell Wilson of it all, right? I'm going to pull up his stats right now. Russell Wilson. And before you go, no way, just take a deep breath, okay? Russell Wilson this season in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. In 12 games, threw for 2,500 yards, essentially, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks, a quarterback rating of 96. Solid. Russell Wilson led the Steelers to the playoffs, right? The Steelers have a great defense, not a great offense. Toward the end of the year, it looked like he was falling back down to earth. Toward the beginning of the year, people were like, is he going to get the Baker Mayfield deal? Now it doesn't maybe feel like that. I don't know if he's going to be available in free agency. The fact of the matter is, if Pete and him mended fences, and if they get Darrell Bevel, what you have to understand is that Russell Wilson is an extremely cheap option. He's going to be cheaper than Geno. He's going to be cheaper than maybe a Sam Darnold, right? He'll be cheaper than a top 6 draft pick. And he just led the Steelers to the playoffs, basically. It's an option to discuss. Another potential option is DK Metcalf. You don't have to look far to hear the rumblings or to see the horizon of DK wanting out of Seattle. Trade, right? We all remember the video of Pete Carroll taking his shirt off and meeting DK Metcalf. That was a 2nd-round pick, by the way, in DK. We know the type of big game, big impact player DK Metcalf is. And the Raiders right now need a number 1 option wideout-wise. They got the number 1 option, is Brock Bowers. But if you trade, I don't know what it's going to take. You've got 2/3. If you trade a 3rd for DK or a 3rd and a 5th or a 2nd, that might be a little too rich for my blood. But if it's not a 1st-round pick and you offer them this or this or this for DK, you know the GM of the Seahawks is going to take Spy Tech's call because they respect Brady and they respect Pete Carroll. So DK Metcalf could be another potential option out there to bring in, and then you don't need to use the 6th pick on a wideout because you just got DK Metcalf. You could use the 6th pick on Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter if they fall, right? Or the offensive lineman or the corner from Michigan. There's flexibility. Ashton Genty, because you know Pete Carroll's going to want to run the football, especially if Darrell Bevel comes back. So that could be interesting. And then there's the Geno Smith of it all. What's interesting about Pete Carroll, and I think maybe his best quality, is being able, and I've said this a bunch of times, this is one of the reasons why I would want to bring him in. His ability to maximize the potential and the talent of anybody on the roster. Richard Sherman was a 5th-round pick. Geno Smith, they got him off the scrap heap. Russell Wilson was an undersized 3rd-round draft pick out of Wisconsin. These guys, it was like the island of misfit toys. And Geno. And Pete Carroll was able to bring the best out of all of them. Geno Smith being the most recent example. And Geno's got 1 year left on his contract, $25 million, not making that much money to play quarterback. He didn't have the best year this year, but they were within reach of a playoff spot too. And with $100 million in cap space and a bunch of draft capital, I think there's a world in which the Raiders roster can creep into the same talent level as the Seahawks roster, especially with Pete Carroll now coaching. And I think McDonald did a great job this year with the Seahawks. No one thought they were going to be too competitive. They almost won their division. But Geno is another guy that you can just manage the game with. He can be this bridge to Shedeur Sanders or a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Miller that you draft later, or somebody maybe you draft next year. Arch, don't expect to be that bad, but maybe we will be. Drew Aller, who knows? All that to say, Geno Smith is definitely an option. I think I might rather have him than Russ at this point, but Geno Smith is also 32 years old. That's not extremely old, but in my mind, it feels like he's 27, 28. No, he's 32. So this is going to be a bridge. And, now with Pete Carroll being involved with our team, right, we probably have the second best coach in the division. You would say Andy Reid's one, and then I think you'd say Pete Carroll's two. Sean Payton, I guess, could be three, although Sean Payton's only coached in one Super Bowl and hasn't won a national championship last time I checked. And then Harbaugh would be four just because he's never won a Super Bowl. The problem with Geno is that you're going up against Herbert and Mahomes. I'm not going to throw Bo Nix in there yet, although Bo Nix to show potential. All that to say, I do think Geno is a legitimate option as well. But if we're talking straight quarterbacks, like I said, Pete Carroll has a long tenured history of being able to make the quarterback position work, whether it's signing a free agent that no one thought could be a starter. Geno Smith, they wrote me off. I didn't write back. Drafting an undersized 5'9" quarterback in the third round out of Wisconsin. Where's the other school he went to? I forgot. He went to a school before that, I think. Doesn't matter. The only thing he's never done is trade up to draft that franchise guy with the first pick. They want to do a lot of play action if it's there available. A lot of play action, pound the rock, make the game easy to manage. Now, when I put this poll out here, I want you to understand something. The examples that I've listed are not the players that I'm saying that we should go get. So when I say, do you think Pete Carroll is going to draft a day 2 quarterback like Russell Wilson? I'm not saying it's going to be Russell Wilson he's going to sign. I'm saying it's going to be like a Jackson Dart in the second round, right? Or when I say resurrect someone's career free agency wise, like Geno Smith, I'm not saying it's going to be Geno Smith. So as I put this poll out here, these are the options I think they have right now at the quarterback position because of the Pete Carroll vibe, whatever you want to call it. What is the QB path Pete Carroll will take? So if we go by day 2 diamond in the rough, like he did with Russell Wilson, it's going to be assuming these guys don't go in the first round, right? Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, one of those guys, right? In the second round. What's that kid's name? Tanner Rourke, whatever his name is. Somebody like that. Free agent resurrection example, Geno Smith. That could be somebody that comes completely out of left field, right? Like a Justin Fields. I know I have him listed in both. Or someone that I'm just throwing out there, right? I'm just throwing this out there. I already see the comments. This guy suggested we should go after Zach Wilson. Look, Zach Wilson, similarly to Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, was a top 5, 6, 7 draft pick. He was the second pick in the draft. He was drafted by the Jets, who we've seen are a pretty bad organization like ourselves, and really had no chance to succeed. Like Sam Darnold, who learned under Kyle Shanahan for a year, Zach Wilson has been learning under one of the best offensive coaches in the league in Sean Payton and looked pretty good in the preseason. And the best thing about Zach Wilson is that he would be cheaper than Sam Darnold would be at this point when the Vikings got Sam Darnold. I'm just throwing out there the idea that the next version of Sam Darnold or the next version of Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield could be Zach Wilson. He's got a lot of talent, and maybe with the right coaching in the right system, throwing to Brock Bowers and maybe a DK Metcalf now, you just take a stab at somebody like a Zach Wilson. There's also best player available free agent-wise, someone like a Sam Darnold. Now, look, I have been pro Sam Darnold becoming a Raider since day one. If they let him go and he wants to do the Baker Mayfield 3 years, $100 million, which would make him around the 17th highest quarterback in terms of average annual salary. I know he played bad in these last 2 games, but you have to understand Sam Darnold, when he took the field in Arizona against the Rams and Sean McVay, that was his first career playoff game ever. And the game before that was probably the most pressure he ever felt in his life because it was to be the 1 seed against Detroit, who was playing in the biggest game of their franchise's history in Detroit. It's completely understandable. Is that a word? My brain is off the rails right now. It's completely justified for Sam Darnold to lay an egg in those 2 games. But what I will not take away from Sam Darnold is that he threw 35 touchdowns and that his team won 14 games. And I'm not going to pretend now that he was always supposed to have done that. Because everyone goes, oh, well, of course they won 14 games. I mean, look, Kevin O'Connell's a genius and they have all these weapons. Before the season started, the narrative with the Vikings was good luck with Sam Darnold. Good luck with Sam Darnold. Smash cut to 14 wins. If Pete Carroll and Spytek and Brady think Sam Darnold is growing into his prime like a Baker Mayfield, who in 1 season took the Bucs to 9 wins and took them within a quarter of the NFC Championship. And no, was anybody saying Baker Mayfield, that must be a fluke? Sam Darnold was a top 10 pick. If you can get him for 3 years, $100 million, and ride this thing out with Sam Darnold, maybe draft the successor, or let Aiden learn under him. I don't know, something. It is not that much money in the grand scheme of things. People say, it's a third of our cap. It's 100% of most people's cap. We have the luxury to go get him because he's going to have a market if he's on the trade, if he's on the free agency market. Now, the last thing that Pete Carroll has never, ever done is draft the quarterback high with Seattle. I don't know about his history in New York or New England with Seattle. Now, right now, it doesn't seem like we are in position to draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. Although, if Cam Ward goes number 1 and Shedeur pulls an Eli and doesn't want to play for the Giants or the Browns, then maybe he can fall to 6. The only way this would happen is if we reached for somebody at 6 like a dart, or if we trade up. I don't see us trading up, but you never know. If Tom Brady and Spytek and Carroll are all in on Shedeur Sanders and they go up to number 1 or to Cleveland or to the Giants, which again I don't see happening right now, but this would be the first time that Pete Carroll is coaching a young quarterback that was drafted in the first round in the top 5. So I think that's the most risky play. In order of what I think is going to happen, I do think he's going to go the free agency route. Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson. And then I do think they draft a Jackson Dart in like round 2 or 3. If you go Abdul Carter in the first round, Jackson Dart in the second, you have a carbon copy of Khalil Mack in 2014 and then Derek Carr. Because if you remember correctly, Matt Schaub, who was pretty good back then, in 2014 even, was supposed to start for the Raiders. He got hurt, something with his elbow. Derek Carr came in, and against the starting unit of the Seattle Seahawks in the 3rd preseason game, which at the time, that was the game where you play all your starters, Derek Carr lit up Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks. And Dennis Allen was smirking on the sidelines like, oh my God, we found our guy. Derek Carr was given the starting job, and he started for the next 10 years for the Raiders. Dennis Allen obviously didn't get to see the fruits of the labor. Dennis Allen has become the first coach in NFL history to be fired with the same quarterback starting for him, Derek Carr. Yikes. There's some interesting poetry there. Obviously, the biggest irony of all this is Tom Brady, the guy who beat Pete Carroll in the second Super Bowl attempt, is now the one hiring him to be the coach of the Raiders. All that to say, I see Raider Rodney says, I think Zach Wilson could be a young Russell Wilson. That's funny because they have almost the same name. He can run around, pick up first downs. And for what I've seen from him in preseason under Peyton, misspelled, he took huge strides. And he got a lot better. And then I don't know what that gibberish is. That's some acronym that I don't know. Genti would be Marshall Lynch 2.0. I think Carroll would love that. Some of these guys in the Discord would agree. Don't disagree with that. I wouldn't be mad about Russell Wilson. People write off QBs way too early. Let's talk about the Genti of it all, because I think I've said enough about Pete Carroll. I love Pete Carroll. I'm so happy he's our coach. I can't wait for this introductory press conference with the both of them. I'm assuming that they're going to announce it probably tomorrow, which means that the press conference wouldn't be Sunday, it would be Monday. But I want to read just a few names here that Levi Edwards has given, because John Spytek was officially announced today on Raiders Twitter, yay, that he's the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Levi says, now that it's official, I can speak on him. Seems like a great hire with lots of experience. When Spytek was over in Tampa, the common theme of their draft classes and free agent signings were going after big physical guys at all positions. I also talked about their willingness to draft ready-to-play players to expedite the rebuild. 37 minutes ago, Levi tweeted and said, to name a few of the Buccaneers draft hits while Spytek was in the front office, he was the director of player personnel. Jason Light was the GM. They drafted Tristan Wirfs, Chris Godwin, Antoine Winfield Jr., Vita Vea, Kalea Kancey, Cade Otton, Zion McCollum, Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting. That's why Tampa Bay was able to stay consistent, win the division 4 straight times, 2 times post Tom Brady. They were also able to locate 2 solid running backs in Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. I believe Rachaad White was a 3rd-round pick and Bucky Irving was a 4th-round pick. And that's what I want to give you with Spytek at the end of the day. They might go Genti at 6. It feels like something that Pete Carroll and Tom Brady might want to do. But there's a world where Spytek goes, you guys take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or a quarterback, whoever you want at 6. I'm down to do that, but let me cook with the running back situation on day 2 or day 3, because there's so many guys out there, Judkins and Amarion Hampton and Scadaboo. And Spytek has said he wants guys that are going to break the first tackle. And that's what Bucky Irving told him in their interview before the draft. He said, the first guy doesn't tackle me. And every time we watch Bucky Irving play, and by the way, Bucky Irving is 5'9". Ashton Genti is 5'8", so they have no problem drafting undersized running backs. They haven't done it at 6, but they did it in day 2 and day 3. So now with Spytek officially on board, and we know the type of aggressive drafter that he is, right? With Pete Carroll here, ready to change the culture, I think now Max Crosby is safe. He's going to get probably a 2-year extension on a contract that already has 2 years left, but no guaranteed money. Max and Pete probably already have talked. Probably took his shirt off talking to Max Crosby. With Tom Brady now making moves. Again, are we going to win the Super Bowl next year? No. We got this train on the tracks. Let's find our version of Geno, of Sam, of Baker. Maybe it is Geno or Sam. Let's maybe take someone in day 2 like they did with Russell Wilson back in 2011. That sounds about right. 2010, something like that. And let's continue the way of winning and competing first. We got the train back on the tracks. Now it's time to put the coal in the furnace and get this thing going. Okay? Thank you so much for watching. Whether you're watching on Bleacher Report, thank you for joining me live after the fact on YouTube, youtube.com/ALLaBorde Raiders. Hit that like button, comment away. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after I'm going to charge to you. I will see you next time live Thursday, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. where I am, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.